Well, good morning. Happy Thursday.
Friday, Junior.
Yes, welcome to another day where we have a guest co-host.
I'm so excited for this morning.
So you didn't know, you were listening to the cues.
I finally guessed it.
You finally guessed
yesterday.
it. Okay, well, our next guest co-host is none other than Fred LeFebvre of News Radio 1370 WSPD.
And it's embarrassing that you needed clues. I've been on the air for 45 years. Well, what are you, like 12 or something?
Story of my life, honestly, though.
Okay.
The youngin' over here. Yeah, so you have been on the radio here in Toledo for 45 years.
I got here in 1980.
Wow.
I went on WMHE is what it was called at the time. It has since switched over to KISS FM, but it's always been 92.5.
Okay.
And I've been on WSPD 1370 now for probably about 15 years. You kind of lose track
Sure.
after you've been around for a while. You know, you forget where you were, but it's always been here in Toledo.
Yeah, and because you're from what, Detroit area
I'm from
originally?
Lincoln Park,
Okay.
actually. Tony Geftis from one of the other stations
Yeah,
is also from Lincoln Park. So you got a couple of Lincoln Park boys down here working in the market. I worked in Salina, Ohio first.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been back in 1977 down by Grand Lake St. Mary's.
You know
The Lima
that?
area.
You know that
Yep.
area?
Worked in Lima.
Oh, did you really?
I know
Okay.
Salina,
See,
yep.
for us in Salina, Lima was the big city.
Yeah.
Because you guys had the Lima Mall.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right.
We didn't even have a
Oh.
Burger King. Seriously, when I was there was no Burger King.
No.
But you had to
So
get your start somewhere, though.
Yeah.
that's where I got my start.
Yeah.
You got to get it someplace.
Yeah.
You do everything, just like you guys know. You have to do sales. You have to do production.
All this
You
stuff.
have to do your show. You have to clean up afterwards. I actually turn off the transmitter every night at midnight when radio stations went off the air at midnight. So I
They
did a
did
little
used
bit
to
of it
do that,
all.
didn't they? The TV stations used to go off the air at midnight. Too.
Yep, everybody had to, and the only thing that brought me up here, somebody called one day and said, you know, you could do all of that up here, and we'll pay you more.
Oh,
And I
There
said,
you
okay,
go. Please.
I'm taking I-75, I'll be there in a couple of hours.
and pretty soon we'll have them all, too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Actually, you know, it's funny because they built Northtown right after I got here.
Right after that.
Yeah.
1981 was when that went up.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot over your career, and I think today it's particularly poignant to have you here because it is September 11th.
Yeah.
So, and we're approaching almost 25 years at this point,
24 years
which is
today, yeah.
really hard to believe, I think. To me, it feels like I can't believe that this was
When
that long.
I see it, and now you're making me think about it.
Yeah.
It still takes you back to that day. I was on the air that day, and so we watched it all unfold on television in the phone screener's office, and we were relaying the information back and forth. And so I would run in and see what was happening, and run in and tell the host of the show, at that time it was Denny Shaver, he'd relay it to the audience. And then when our show was finished, we went straight to ABC News and carried ABC News the rest of the day for live coverage, which I think a lot of places did.
Yeah, we did the same here, and yeah, TV stations, radio stations across the country.
All
But
over.
it was that moment that you have that memory. You remember it so vividly and clearly.
And for me, at least, and I think it happens for a lot of people, it makes me tear up a little bit because that loss, not just of life, but of innocence that we thought we had.
Sure. That safety
Really
and
is
security.
compelling. So I'm thankful, and I know I've seen you guys talk about it this morning. All the different services that are going on, Gibsonburg and Sylvania. And normally I'd be up at Toledo Memorial Park this morning for their service, which starts at 9 o'clock, by the way, at their 9/11 memorial, which has a piece from the World Trade Center that they managed to acquire a couple of years ago through the efforts of Jeff Clegg. It's a beautiful memorial, and actually that part of the cemetery is set aside for law enforcement and first responders who would like to be buried there.
Yeah, so Jeff is, he's so great with everything at Toledo Memorial. I imagine you talked about this a lot on
We
your
talked
show
about
this
it this morning.
We had to pull you away from the airwaves a little bit early today.
Well, I got out at 8 o'clock instead of 9.
Yeah.
But we talked about that, and of course the Charlie Kirk assassination. And the shooting in Colorado, in Evergreen, Colorado, of kids again. And it just seems like every day we have a new shooting that we're talking about. And I get that people want to do thoughts and prayers, and if that makes you feel better, you know, that's fine, that's your thing. But for me, unless the thoughts and prayers are followed up with actions, it doesn't mean anything unless you're going to go out and deal with the number of police on the street and their mental health and people's mental health and reaching out to the kids like the Buffalo Soldiers do with a gun safety program. Until that happens, none of this will change, and we'll continue to have events like this. It's got to start with respect for yourself and then respect for everybody else.
Yeah. And so you have that ability on your show to talk about all of these things, and we are going to talk more about the Buffalo Soldiers and the work that you do coming up a little bit later in the show. How's everything? Family good? Everybody good?
Everybody's good. My kids are grown. My kids are older than you, for crying out loud.
I think I saw one of your kids is my age.
My kid, well, my son,
Your son,
who was born shortly after I got here in February of 1980, is 45. And
I love that.
That's how we refer to it. And his sister is 41.
Yeah,
so
that's
my
me.
kids are grown and away from
Your
home.
age.
Oh, yeah, away from home.
You're 40 already?
41.
Someone's
Next
got a birthday
Seriously?
coming up.
1 week from today.
Oh,
1 week
wow.
from today, yeah. Well, thank you. If you didn't think that I was
No, I
that
didn't.
age.
I would have pegged you around 35 or something like that.
Yes.
Whoa.
Winning. We can bring him back. How about that?
Because I'm looking at her and thinking 20,
12.
21.
Young at heart, right?
It's all right.